They told me love behind bars was dangerous, but I thought I was the exception, until the day I walked into court, not as his wife, but as his next victim. I never believed in fairy tales, especially the kind that began in the most unlikely of places, a maximum security prison. My name is Elena. I was 38, recently divorced, and working 2 jobs to support my son Leo. My days were consumed by chaos, school pickups, laundry, the grueling night shift at the care home. But my nights, they were quiet, too quiet. That's when the loneliness crept in like smoke under a door. I used to scroll through forums and support groups for single parents just to feel less alone. That's where I saw it. A post from a woman who married a prisoner. The comments were mixed, some horrified, others strangely supportive. But one sentence stood out to me. Sometimes the people behind bars are the only ones who truly listen. I didn't act on it right away. But a few weeks later, while reorganizing the bookshelf at the care home, I came across a charity pamphlet. Write to a prisoner. Bring light to the forgotten. I don't know what possessed me, but I took it home. I stared at the list of names for days. Then I saw him. Michael Rowe, 38, serving 22 years, convicted of manslaughter. He was from Manchester, just a few hours from me. His short bio said he liked poetry, classical music, and wrote short stories. I wrote the first letter on a rainy Tuesday night. Hello, Michael. I don't know if this will ever reach you, but I wanted to say hello. I didn't expect a reply. But 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived. His handwriting was neat, elegant even. His words were thoughtful, curious. He asked about my life, not in the shallow way most men do, but in the kind of way that made me feel seen. Letter by letter, we peeled back each other's lives. He told me about his childhood, an abusive father, a mother who disappeared, a teenage spiral into addiction and rage. He admitted guilt. He didn't excuse what he'd done, but he spoke about it with such shame, such remorse, that I found myself forgiving him for things I didn't even understand. In one letter, he wrote, "The bars keep me from the world, but your words, they let me breathe again." I started looking forward to the letters more than anything else. I'd rush to the mailbox like a teenager. Even Leo noticed. "Is that your prison boyfriend?" He teased once. I laughed, but I didn't deny it. Soon our letters turned into scheduled phone calls. His voice was deep, soothing, and the way he spoke to me, like I mattered, like I was something more than a tired mother, was intoxicating. I visited him for the first time 5 months after our correspondence began. HMP Wakefield was cold and gray. The walls were thick, the guards stiff. But when I saw him sitting across the plastic table, he smiled like the sun had finally returned. He looked nothing like I expected. Tall, well-kept, handsome in a rugged sort of way. His eyes were a kind of green that felt like they could read through you. When he took my hands and whispered, "You're even more beautiful than I imagined," I felt something break inside me. Something I didn't even know was still holding on. I fell. Hard. The prison visits became regular. I got used to the security checks, the stares from guards, the questions from friends. Some said I was crazy, others said I was brave. But Michael made me feel something no man ever had. Safe, cherished, chosen. One evening, as I was leaving the visit room, he called out, "Elena, would you marry me?" I froze. He didn't have a ring. He didn't even have a future outside the prison walls. But I saw his eyes, pleading, full of hope. I nodded. We got married 6 weeks later, a simple ceremony inside the prison chapel, a borrowed dress, a plastic bouquet, and a kiss that had to be supervised. Still, I had never felt more committed to anything in my life. Our honeymoon was a 30-minute phone call, but I believed in us. I believed in him. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of something sacred, a love that was rare, pure, resilient, until the letter arrived. It came from a woman named Clara Jennings. I almost threw it away, thinking it was a scam. But something about the handwriting stopped me. Inside was one sentence: "You don't know who you married." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her words etched in my mind like graffiti. I didn't want to believe it, but something inside me had already started to unravel. And in my gut, I knew. This wasn't just about a man serving time. This was about something much darker. The envelope sat on my kitchen table for hours. Clara Jennings. The name echoed in my head like a ghost whispering behind a closed door. I finally opened it at 2:11 a.m., when the world was quiet enough to hear my own breath. The letter inside was neatly written, like mine and Michael's old letters. But the tone was razor sharp. You think he's a victim of circumstance. You think you know him. I did too, until my sister died. Michael Rowe is not just a prisoner, he is a predator. Ask him about Emily Jennings. He'll lie, but he can't erase her. I stared at the name, Emily Jennings. I'd never heard it before. He had told me he was convicted of manslaughter during a fight at a bar. A mistake. One punch. The kind of thing anyone could do on a bad day. But now... this? I tried calling the prison the next morning. I told them I wanted to leave a message for Michael. I didn't tell them why. That night, during our scheduled call, his voice came through the line. "Hi, my beautiful wife," he said. All warmth and honey. I didn't return the greeting. "Michael, who is Emily Jennings?" Silence. Heavy. Like dead air. He sighed. "Where did you hear that name?" "From Clara. Her sister." Another long pause. "Elena, that was a long time ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. Or lose you." "You told me it was a bar fight," I said slowly. "It was. But she was there. Emily was involved. It was messy. Messy. She died, Michael." He inhaled. "She was with a group of people who attacked me. It was self-defense. But I was the only one with a record. They pinned it all on me. I didn't want to bring it up because you'd look at me differently." He sounded calm. Too calm. Like a man who had rehearsed this explanation 1,000 times. And in that moment I felt something I hadn't felt since before I met him. Doubt. That night, after putting Leo to bed, I went online. I didn't search his name when we first started writing. I wanted to believe his version. But now I typed it in. Michael Rowe, Emily Jennings, Manchester. The search took 0.43 seconds to destroy everything I thought I knew. There were articles, real ones, with headlines like "University student found dead in abandoned building, ex-convict boyfriend arrested." Michael Rowe sentenced to 22 years in murder of 21-year-old Emily Jennings. I clicked one. My hands trembled. It described how Emily, a university student and aspiring artist, was found bludgeoned to death in an abandoned warehouse. Michael had been dating her for 4 months. Witnesses said she had been trying to break things off. He didn't take it well. I read every line in a daze. This wasn't manslaughter, this wasn't an accident, this was murder. And I had married him. The next few days were a blur. I stopped answering his letters. I didn't take his calls. My appetite vanished. I felt like vomiting every time I looked at the wedding band on my finger. And then another letter came. This one from Clara again. Inside were photocopies of court transcripts, details, testimonies, crime scene descriptions, things I will never be able to unread. He strangled her before hitting her with a tire iron. He left her body for 3 days before calling 999 and claiming she attacked him first. He told her mother he lost control, but that did not stop him from cleaning the scene first. Every line was a dagger. I sat on the floor and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. Leo found me like that. "Mom, what's wrong?" I shook my head. "It's okay, baby, I'm okay." But I wasn't. The next morning I drove to the prison. Not for a visit, but for answers. I asked to speak to the warden. I showed him Clara's letters, the articles, the transcripts. He looked at me carefully, then said, "Mrs. Rowe, you're not the first woman he's done this to, but you might be the first to wake up in time." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "He's had 3 pen pal wives. All divorced him. All came forward after finding out the full truth. He knows how to manipulate, how to charm. We've seen it before. He knows exactly what kind of woman to target. Kind-hearted, lonely, forgiving." I felt sick. "You're telling me I was just one of them?" He nodded. "I'm sorry." I left the prison and sat in my car for what felt like hours. My body didn't feel like mine. My head was spinning. Michael had picked me, groomed me, lied to me, and I had married him. That night I answered his call. "Elena," he said, "you've been quiet." "I know everything," I said coldly. "Emily, Clara, the court files, the tire iron, all of it." He didn't deny it, so what now? "I want a divorce." He laughed, a low, cruel laugh. "You think it's that easy? You promised forever." "You're mine, Elena." "No," I said. "I was your illusion. Not anymore." "I'll write to your son," he said suddenly. "Tell him who his mother really is, a woman who marries monsters." And just like that, the illusion shattered completely. He wasn't remorseful, he wasn't misunderstood. He was evil. I hung up, blocked the number, changed my address, called a lawyer. The next morning I began the process of ending the marriage. But the scars, they would take longer. And little did I know. Michael wasn't done with me yet. It had been 3 months since I filed for divorce. The silence was healing. No letters, no calls, no prison-issue paper with lies wrapped in pretty words. I started therapy. I changed Leo's school. We moved to a smaller flat near my mother's, trying to rebuild from the rubble. I was learning to breathe again. Until the letter came. It arrived on a gray Thursday morning, tucked between a water bill and a supermarket flyer. The return address said HMP Wakefield. My fingers trembled as I held it. I should have thrown it away, burned it. But part of me, some stubborn, broken part, wanted to know what he had to say. The envelope was thicker than usual. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a photograph. The letter read, "Elena, I know you've spoken to the warden, to Clara. You've chosen to believe their version of me. That's fine. But I want to leave you with the truth before I disappear from your life forever. Not the truth the courts printed. Not the truth Clara screamed in your ear, but mine." Emily was not innocent. She was manipulative, cruel, and vengeful. I loved her, and she used me. She played games with men. I wasn't the first. That night, she told me she was pregnant. She laughed when I panicked, said it wasn't even mine. She said she was going to tell everyone I hit her, ruin my life, I lost control. That's not an excuse, but it's what happened. I'm not the monster Clara thinks I am. I was a man who lost everything in a moment of weakness, but you were the only light in my darkness. You gave me joy, letters, words, a second chance, and I ruined it. I see that now. I won't write again. I'm letting you go, but know this. You were my first act of redemption, even if it was only pretend. There was no signature. Just a small ink smudge where his name would have been. I looked at the photograph. It was old. A young woman with red hair standing in a field of sunflowers. Her smile was genuine, pure, not the way he described her. On the back, scribbled in faded pen, Emily, August 2003. I sat for hours, staring at the letter and the photo. Michael wanted me to see him as a tragic figure, a broken man shaped by pain and betrayal. But I saw it clearly now. He wasn't just trying to clear his name. He was still trying to control the story, even from behind bars. He wanted to be remembered as the misunderstood victim, the man who simply lost control, and I wasn't going to let that happen. I contacted Clara. We met at a cafe in Liverpool Street. She looked tired but resolute. "I got a final letter too," she said, pulling it from her purse. "It was almost identical to yours. Same photograph, same story." "So he's rewriting history," I said. She nodded. "He's desperate to make someone believe he's the victim." I placed my hand over hers. "I'm sorry for what he did to your sister, for how long it's taken me to see it." Clara smiled sadly. "You're not the first to fall for him. You won't be the last, unless we speak up." That's when we decided to do something no one else had done. Tell the real story. We gathered everything. Court documents, personal letters, timelines, transcripts. Clara connected me with a journalist who had once covered the case. Together, we pitched the story to a podcast that focused on wrongful love stories gone wrong. They called it Married to a Killer. My voice trembled when I recorded my part. I talked about the letters, the wedding, the calls, the lies. I read the final letter out loud into the microphone, and for the first time I didn't feel like a fool. I felt like a survivor. The podcast aired 2 months later. It exploded. Emails poured in. Women who had been duped by charming convicts. Families who had lost loved ones to men who just lost control. Therapists, advocates, support groups, and one letter, handwritten, no return address. I was about to marry someone like him. Thank you for saving me. That one made me cry. Michael's story no longer belonged to him, and I wasn't his puppet anymore. Months passed. Leo thrived in his new school. He asked fewer questions about the man I'd once called his stepdad. I told him one day when he was older I'd explain everything. With truth, not fantasy. One evening I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, holding the wedding ring. I kissed it once, then dropped it down the kitchen sink. No fanfare, no drama, just freedom.